You have to believe it to receive it. And always remember that your perception of things can create your reality. So when those perceptions are negative or self-defeating, it creates a scenario or an environment where you're not going to see the success you should see or deserve to see in dating and relationships and with men. So it's important to understand what perceptions and beliefs actually get in people's way. All right. So I'm going to lay out for you 7 limiting beliefs that are stopping you from meeting the right man, because the right man does exist. Plain and simple. There is a man out there for you, but you've got to get your mind in the right place so that you can receive these things. So let's start with the first one that I think is a huge problem, and I see it on my channel all the time. And that is the belief that dating is too complicated. All right. So I'm sure that resonated with a lot of you, right? And I completely understand why dating seems too complicated. And I've seen a lot of comments from you where after watching one of my videos, you're like, oh my gosh, this is too exhausting. I don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to stay single. Understand this. It only feels complicating because you've been fed, or here's one of the reasons, you've been fed so much different information. And I understand that's confusing. You know, one person's telling you, make him chase you. I'm telling him, don't make any man chase you. Don't chase him either. One person's saying, play this game. I'm telling you, don't play games. You know, this family member may have said, well, you should handle it this way. And when you're given so much conflicting information, it can cause things to seem confusing, frustrating, overwhelming, so on and so forth, you know? As well as the fact that when you're receiving this information, because I'm always, you know, breaking everything down to the T, at least I try to go to the T as best as possible, and the depth of the information may make it, again, seem like this is too much. But picture this. It's kind of like you ever experience having to take a test, and when you looked at the test, you was like, oh my gosh, this is too much. You know, I'm not going to be able to pass this test. I can't do this. I'm just going to give up, right? But then at some point during the sitting there, because, you know, we have to sit there and wait for everybody to finish their test, you decide to actually look at the questions, and then you start to realize, wait a minute, I know this. This isn't too bad, you know? And then in the end, you actually pass the test. And I think that dating for a lot of women, that's what it seems like. You're seeing all these things. You're getting all this information. It overwhelms you. You throw your hands up in the air. But if you take a step back and just process the information being given to you, it's not that bad. It's not that hard. Because the reality is that dating can be very simple as you're willing to make it. Because the reality is this. It gets complicating also because we allow a conflict between our emotion, our logic, and our spirit. All right, let me repeat that. We allow, and yes, we as people allow a conflict between our emotion, our logic, and our spirit. So, our emotions are feeling one thing, or they want to feel something, right? And we're giving into that in the moment. But then our logic and what we're seeing and breaking down and analyzing is telling us something else. And then our spirit, during this whole time, your intuition, your inner voice, whatever you like to call it, but I'm going to call it your inner spirit, your intuition, even say God speaking to you, right, is telling you something else. And because we're at battle with these 3 things, again, the dating landscape starts to seem more complicated. Relationships, men start to seem too difficult to deal with. But I would argue if you mastered your emotions, did not give in so much to your logic, and got more in tune with your spirit, your intuition, it would make things easier and clearer for you. And when you start to understand how to not waste time on situations that you don't belong in, you simplify the dating process. Because another reason why dating seems so complicating is because a lot of people, a lot of women develop what I call dating fatigue. All right. So you go through a situation with a man, you try to give it an opportunity, a chance to work. He put you through the ringer. It emotionally drains you. And even though there may have been something telling you early on from the jump, he's not it. You try to convince yourself reasons to give this a chance. Maybe you didn't want to be alone. Maybe you were enjoying his company. Maybe you just wanted to believe this could finally work so you could stop all this dating and finally have a committed relationship and potentially marriage. But because you allowed it to drag on, all right, and we have to take that personal accountability when we allow things to go on longer than they should. Not to beat yourself up, but to learn from it so that you don't keep repeating that cycle. When we allow these things to drag on, it drains and damages us. And so now we don't have the energy, you don't have the energy for the next situation coming along. And again, that bad experience causes you to view dating and relationships in a negative light. But the reality is that no, it was just that situation. And granted, some of you may have had multiple situations that caused you to feel this way. But you have to keep it at those people that it was a bad experience and not project it onto all men or all of dating. All right. And so all these different things, I understand and sympathize with the perception that dating is too complicated, but it's not. It does not have to be. You've got to learn to make it simple. Get more in tune with your intuition and spirit. Not let things drag on longer than they should. Healing from your past situations so that you're not bringing that into new situations. You also have to understand that when I give you all this information, I'm helping you have different perspectives and understandings of men and dating so that you're better equipped to go out into the dating field. Don't let all of this overwhelm you, all right? Take it in, process, remember the things you need to remember. And again, listen, even when I speak to you, because I don't want to just flat out say I'm the only one that's right and everybody else giving you advice is wrong, right? But I'm just going to tell you, listen, if you're a spiritual person, pray about any information you receive from anybody, whether it's me or anybody else. You know, if you're not spiritual, then again, really take a step back and process, is this healthy information I'm receiving? And I think deep inside you know when it is and when it isn't. All right. Sometimes that toxic information may feed how you're feeling emotionally at that moment. But when you're honest with yourself, you know it's game playing. You know it's tricks that's only going to cause more problems. Let's not engage in that, because that's what makes it more complicated. When you engage in games, it's going to get more complicating. When you're not transparent in dating, it's going to get more complicating. You got to be real about who you are, what you desire, what your requirements are, all right? And again, when someone is not willing to step up to the plate, keep it moving, let them go, and move on to the next. All right, so now there's probably more angles we can add to what creates this perception of dating being too complicated, but we're going to move on to the next thing. And the next limiting belief is that there are no good men where you live. All right. So I hear this one all the time. All right. And granted, I understand that in certain cities, the amount of quality, depending on what that woman deems as quality, all right, because everybody has a different perception of what quality is, it may be less options in a woman's area. I don't doubt that exists in some places, right? But I never believe this idea that there is no such quality in your area. And even if there isn't, I have a solution. But let's first focus on the idea there's no quality in your area. So let me give this analogy. Don't judge me. Just work with me here, all right? So I live in Atlanta, okay? And if you don't know, I come from a Caribbean background. I'm Haitian. And so coming up, I used to live in Miami. Coming up, we party, we celebrate, we dance. And I like that kind of stuff, right? So living in Atlanta, I still like a club. I still like going to a club here and there because I like going somewhere to dance and just let loose and have some fun. Anyways, I would go to these clubs in Atlanta, and it would seem like all these clubs only had sections, all right? All these VIP sections or whatever. And so nowadays, it's not the mingling and dancing that it used to be. And I started to believe, oh man, there's no good clubs anymore. There's no places to dance anymore. Everything is go post up and try to look cute or look like you're somebody or whatever. And so it got to a point where I was like, I'm not even going to try to go out anywhere because there's nowhere to go. There's nothing in my city, right? Until one day, I went to go meet a friend with me and a couple of friends. We went to go meet up at this hotel just to have a couple drinks and talk. And while we were there, we end up hearing music around the area. This is still in Atlanta. And we're like, where's that music coming from? They're playing some good music. So I was like, yo, let's go check it out. So we went to look, and it was this spot that was exactly what I like. Mind you, this is not far from where I live. And it was just like, so this whole time I bought into this idea that this type of club did not exist anymore, right? And that all that existed was things that I did not enjoy about clubs. But it was always there. But it's so easy to get fooled by your limited experiences. And I'm going to say limited because we may feel like, oh, we've been to every spot. Or you may feel like, oh, I've dated so many men in this area. But you ain't dated everybody. you may not have even met a fraction. Well, you probably didn't. The average person didn't go out with a whole heap load of people in their area. And so you may not even realize that even in your city or surrounding areas, there are pockets that there might be men that you like. Or there may be just men scattered about in those areas that you just don't know about. But the minute you start believing that there is none in your area, you give up any desire or willingness to go out, to allow yourself to meet people. And then what you don't realize is you start projecting that negative energy. If we think that what we're looking for, desire, is not accessible to us, we're not going to project a positive energy about that. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be very careful and understand, don't get caught up into, yeah, but I'm just not meeting anyone in my area. Yeah, you haven't maybe met that guy yet. Doesn't mean you can't. Now, I can hear some of you in the back of my head saying, well, it's not just me. All my friends in my area say the same thing. And again, I'm not saying that it isn't skewed in certain areas. The percentage of the type of guys that you may like, it might be lower in certain places. But I still don't believe it's just a flat out, there's no guys there. But again, I told you, let's just say there isn't. What's the solution? Well, thankfully, we live in a day and time where it is easier to meet people outside of our area. Whether it be social media, whether it be going on online dating. I know some of you are not too keen on that, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later as well. But these options are available, and it gives you the ability to meet men beyond where you live. So even if, which I don't think you should believe there's just no men in your area, but even if you reach that point, that's not a reason to think that you can't meet someone elsewhere that you can still make something happen with. So you still got to think positively in this way and understand that options do exist out there. You just may have to take different measures in order to connect with those options. All right, so now let's keep it moving to the next limiting belief that's stopping you from meeting the right man. And that's the belief that good men don't exist. Now, remember what I said when this video started. You have to believe it to receive it. And before I continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. I appreciate your support. So again, you have to believe it to receive it. If you do not believe good men exist, how are you going to meet one? and if you say, well, if one shows up, I'll believe it. Here's the problem with that mentality. If a good man shows up, but you don't believe good men exist, you will try to explain away to yourself that this is not a good man. You will find ways to validate your negative perception that this does not exist. You'll say he's too good to be true. Nah, something's got to be wrong. You're going to start looking for things, and you will self-sabotage because you won't allow yourself to accept the good that's standing in front of you. And what's hitting my spirit is also the reality of this. No man is perfect. Let me make clear. Good men, great men do exist, but no perfect man exists. And because perfection does not exist, this means that as men or as human beings, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to sometimes get it wrong. And if you have it in your head that good men don't exist, the minute he does something wrong, even if it's an innocent mistake, you will use that, magnify it to say, you see, this is what I'm talking about. There are no good men. You will give him less grace in the process of learning and being better for you, because there's an adjustment period. A man can be good, but his ability to be good to you is also predicated on him understanding what you need. And so there is a learning process. There's some things that, yes, he may get on his own, but the smaller details, and let's be honest, as a woman, you work in the details. You're not just looking at the big things, you're looking at the little things too. And that's where a lot of men do struggle, because they don't understand, the importance of the little things. But again, those little things are very dependent on that person individually and what matters to her, okay? So with all that said, when he doesn't get it right, you're going to use that to say, yes, here we go again, another not a good man, right? But let's go a little further with this whole good men don't exist. Be honest with yourself. Can you honestly say you've never seen a good man? Now, some of you are going to say, yes, you've never seen a good man. But listen, think about it for a second. Because a lot of times when women say good men don't exist, what they're really saying is, I haven't met a good man that I've been able to connect with romantically. All right? So that might mean you haven't met a good man that you were attracted to, or you haven't met a good man who is willing to be serious with you, but you've met good men. They are out there, okay? And you have to understand the difference, because, again, the minute you slide into they don't exist at all, you cast this dark shadow on all men, on dating, on relationships that will shoot yourself in the foot. And will also, let me make clear, will become repellent to good men. If you carry that negative energy and perception, you're going to give off a spirit that is not inviting to a man who's actually good, all right? But guess who will still come your way? All the bad ones. All the ones who want to sleep with you, all the ones who don't mind using you and wasting your time, because they don't care about your spirit. They don't care about your energy. They care about getting what they want. But the good guy, the genuine, serious guy, he's going to be a little more sensitive to what you're giving off. And if you're not giving off that good energy, that good stuff, he's going to move on to the next person. So it's important to remember there are good men. You have come across them. Maybe they were cousins. Again, maybe there were guys you weren't interested in. And I'm in no way saying get with a guy just because he's good, but you're not attracted to him, or you don't have that feeling with him, all right? You know, good guy doesn't mean right guy for you. So I'm not pushing you in that direction. I am simply telling you, but recognize they are there. They are there. Recognize they exist, all right? And hold on to that, because that will allow you to keep the positive mindset necessary to not just see the good ones that you will be interested in clearly, but to be able to receive and create a relationship with that individual. All right, so before I continue, real quick, we're talking about these limiting beliefs, and understand this. A lot of this stuff stems from a lack of healing. A lot of struggle to project a good spirit of positive energy is due to a lot of women being disconnected from their feminine energy and simply not understanding the world of dating and men in a deeper way. So if you are looking for additional help, because I'm always getting people asking me, can I coach them? How can they sit down with me? I will give you the opportunity right now to join my special coaching program. I want you to go to receivingmyblessings.com. All right. Click the link in the description of the comments section. Thousands of women have joined. So many are getting all kinds of help. They're seeing a huge difference going through this program. There's modules on healing, purpose, hearing God more clearly, feminine energy, all of it. Join today. Again, receivingmyblessings.com. All right, so now the next limiting belief stopping you from meeting the right man is the idea that men only want one thing. So we're talking about, what is it called? The horizontal polka. Uh, getting in your pants. I'm thinking about all the lingo people use rather than just saying the word. You get what I'm saying. Lay down with you, yeah, all that. So anyways, this idea that men only want this one thing is wrong. Let's first make this understood. It is wrong. Now, please, I get and understand completely that many of you have experienced tons of men only wanting one thing. And I think this is what you have to understand. Men in general, believe it or not, do want relationship. Many men do want marriage, all right? And I would argue that more men than it may seem are at the very least open to marriage, all right? However, because they're not trying to marry every woman they meet, there are tons of men who still want to experience and enjoy a woman, quote unquote. And because of that, all right, their pursuit with that woman specifically will be more centered and focused on getting her in bed. That does not mean that's all men want in general, all right? There's so much more to it, but I understand how it's hard to grasp that when you keep getting men so focused on having relations with you. So please understand, and here's another thing I have to mention. A lot of men, because they don't want to be held to the standard of committed relationship and marriage with that specific woman at that time. And please understand, that doesn't necessarily mean, if it's you as a woman, it doesn't mean you're not a good woman. A man can view you as a great woman, someone's potential wife, but it's not a fit for him, okay? And I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just explaining the situation. But he still wants to date you. He still wants to hang with you. He still wants to take things to a certain level. And so this guy, if he does not want you holding him to the standard of marriage and relationship, he may say to you, I'm not looking for anything. Or he may say, I don't believe in marriage. But it's not actually true. And the proof that what I'm saying is correct is how many times have you seen or heard of men who will be in a relationship or in a situationship with one woman, claiming they don't want commitment, claiming they don't want marriage, right? Finally, that woman leaves him or they break up, whatever. 6 months later, he's engaged to somebody else. So it shows you that he was always open to the idea of commitment and marriage, but because he did not want it in the situation with the previous woman, he wasn't going to put that out there. Because he knew if he says it, he'll be held to that. Now, again, I'm not telling you this is okay. I'm not validating it. I'm explaining it. And explaining it for the purpose that you don't confuse those situations with this perception that men don't want more than just laying down with a woman. They do. They do. And I'm going to make one other point. There's this guy who, he's like, you could say he's a pickup artist, or he teaches men how to pick up women, so to speak. And he told me one day how the vast majority of men who want his coaching or, call him for services are actually men trying to get one specific woman. It's not them actually trying to be with all these different women. They just want that to know how they can get this one woman to love them and be with them. So it really shows you how so much more men than you think want more than just having fun in the bedroom. Plain and simple. So, and again, it's important that you really understand that, because if you start to think men only want one thing, then you start to believe, what's the point of us? What's the point of dating? What's the point of these relationships? I'm done with these men. I'm done with this, because you think there's no one out there who wants the level of commitment that you do. But there's plenty. So please reject that mindset and understand you just have to meet the right guy who you connect with and aligns with you and shares your values and your desires so that you guys can come together. All right, so now speaking of, getting in your pants, let's get to the next limiting belief, and that is the idea that all men cheat. All right. Now, I'm not gonna get too deep, but I'm gonna get a little real with y'all because I think it's important to just be transparent. All right. So one, of course, I'm gonna tell you that all men do not cheat, and I genuinely, wholeheartedly believe that. I'm not just saying it to make it sound good to you or to just throw the wool over your eyes. No. I have met men, tons of men, who are really about being committed, loyal, who have no desire to be running around and dealing with this one and that one. They're simply not wired for it. All right. A lot of men, I honestly would argue the majority of men, all right, are wired in a way that if they're getting what they need, they're good. They're not going nowhere else. All right. Now we can argue about and discuss the idea of, are they actually getting what they need? What is it that men need? That whole discussion, because I think that sometimes, if I'm being, again, I'm keeping it real with y'all, there are situations where the woman says, well, I did everything for him. But in reality, if you dig into the situation, what she was doing for him wasn't actually what he was asking for, what he needed. And that disconnect can start to open all kinds of doors. Now, let me make clear, again, I am not making excuses or validating. I'm explaining to y'all so you guys have clarity on this situation. But ultimately, there's just men who just really, they're not into that. But I'm not going to act like there isn't a segment of men. And again, I would argue this is a minority in compared to those men who, if they're getting what they need, they're good. There are men who their mindset is cheating is a way of life. It's just what they do. It may be a little bit cultural. It may be some internal wiring. Again, it's a deeper discussion we'll need to have. But I am starting to observe where some men are wired in a way that it makes it very difficult for them to be monogamous. Or they just flat out reject it. They're just like, no, I don't care. It's not part of what they subscribe to. But again, don't be fooled by that segment of men and projecting onto all men. It isn't all men. Listen, there are tons of stories of men who have gotten not just neglected in their relationship, abused by their woman, treated poor. I mean, you name it. It's situations that if I told you about, you'd be like, I wouldn't blame him if he cheated. I'm not saying it's ever okay. I'm just saying that some situations are so bad, even you as a woman would be like, man, okay, I kind of understand it. And I know, of course, the answer is always just leave if you're not being treated right. But, it gets a lot more difficult. And again, we'll say that for a different video. But the point is, not all men cheat. But if you start to believe that, then again, it causes you to feel like, what's the point of this dating? What's the point of these relationships if I'm never going to get a faithful man? But you can get a faithful man. But I'm going to say this. I didn't want to say it. Lord, I didn't want to say it. But I'm gonna say it. It's hitting my spirit again. Sometimes there's a trade-off. I'm just saying sometimes there's a trade-off. And what I mean by that is this. I don't want to flat out make this like an absolute. But I will say that, let's say, for example, you desire, and this is just an example, this is not saying all men in this field act this way, all right? But let's say you desire a musician, an artist who's always on the road, okay? And he's not just a musician, let's add more to it. He's a good-looking musician. He's a successful musician. And he's very masculine, all right? Now, again, I'm not saying all men like this will cheat, but I'm going to say that, listen, that guy in that situation is going to have a harder time. And if you're like, well, I have to have this specific type of guy, then you have to understand that there's certain pitfalls or struggles, obstacles that may come with that, right? So when I say there's a trade-off, what I mean is the type of guy who is going to be more capable of being monogamous and faithful may be in a different box that you're not looking at, that maybe you haven't considered. And again, I know I'm being kind of vague. This is something that we got to dive a lot deeper in, and I'm trying to watch how I navigate this topic right now. But ultimately, yeah, we're going to leave that alone. The bottom line is, not all men cheat. Get it out of your head. You can have a relationship with a man who will be faithful to you and monogamous and want to be with only you. That does exist out there in the world. All right, so the number 6 limiting belief keeping you from meeting the right man, and I say this with love, but please don't be triggered, just hear me out, is the mentality of he needs to take me as I am. So hear me out. It's not that I don't want you to settle. It's not that I want you to settle for someone who doesn't love you for who you are, because he should love you for who you are. But the idea of take me as I am, as I stand right now, can be very problematic, because as you stand right now, you may have some issues. All right? And that's not to insult you. That's just a reality. Now, I know some of you may say, well, we all have issues. Some people have worked through their issues. Some people have resolved their issues. And some issues aren't as detrimental to the success of a relationship as others. If you have issues or flaws that directly impact your ability to communicate with people, your ability to create harmony and peace in a relationship, your ability to embrace what a man needs, and so on and so forth, that blocks you from being able to bring forth that spirit, that energy that's necessary to not just have success in a relationship, but for you to have a better quality of life, then we can't just say, take me as I am. Imagine if a man is emotionally damaged, financially unstable, okay, and just a complete mess. And he says, well, she should take me as I am. Are you, what? Like, no, you can't think like that. It should be, yes, he should, you got to switch that mentality to, he should love me for me. And from there, you've got to make sure you know who you are, okay? And you got to work on being the best version of you. So I don't want you becoming someone you are not, okay? All these things I tell you guys to do, all these tips I give you and advice, it's to elevate, to enhance. It's not to necessarily change. Now, some of it may feel like I'm trying to change you, but in my eyes, I'm trying to bring out your real self. And I'll give one example, the feminine energy piece. There's a lot of women who will say to me, well, I'm just not feminine. You're asking me to be something that I'm not. My counter argument is, no, you are feminine. You're just detached from it. You are conditioned to your masculine energy, so you're not as comfortable with it anymore. I'm trying to bring it back to the surface and teach you how to get comfortable with it, so that now you will see how happy you are in this place and how it was really who you are. It's almost like someone working at a job for 20, 15 years, 10 years, whatever, and they say, well, no, I'm a nurse. I've always been a nurse. It's like, no. Deep inside, you're an artist. You've always actually been an artist, but you've been detached from your artistry because you thought it couldn't get you anywhere. You thought this isn't a career choice, so I'm going to go be a nurse. But no, you're really an artist, and I'm just showing you how to bring that out. So remove the take me as I am mentality. Remove the he has to accept all my flaws. Listen, you have to work on your flaws. You have to become a better you. But yes, he has to embrace and love who you truly are at your core. So now we're at number 7, and then we got a quick bonus. The number 7 limiting belief keeping you from being the right man is the belief that God will bring you a man. Now listen, y'all know I'm a man of God, and I know God can do amazing things. And I am in no way saying that God is not going to work in your life in a way that allows you to cross paths with the man who's for you. What I am saying is many women, I'm sorry. What I am saying is many women use the belief that God will bring them as a man as a scapegoat. All right? And so because God will make it happen, God will bring them to me, I don't have to work on becoming my better self. I don't have to heal from my past. I don't have to learn how to date better. I don't have to be mindful of my limiting beliefs and how I'm thinking. You know, all these different things because, well, God will take care of it. No, that's the problem. As they say, faith without works is dead. Yes, believe God can guide you to your blessings, but embrace the work you have to do along the path. Embrace the process you have to undergo. So take it further than just God will bring me a man. Take it to what do I need to do to receive the man God has for me? What is my role in this? All right. And when we take more initiative in that process, and that's in any aspect of life. So it could be in your career, your purpose, whatever it is. Ask, what am I supposed to do? What do I need to embrace? And then work on that. And in doing your part, you will receive what is truly for you. All right, so one quick bonus. I mentioned it earlier. Another, you could say, limiting belief that is at least getting in the way of some women, because it doesn't apply to all, is the idea that online dating is pointless. All right? And I'm just going to say this, because I'm going to do a whole different video on focusing on online dating. I've had clients who've met their husband through online dating. Online dating is simply a tool to use to meet more people conveniently. Now listen, some of y'all, it may not be time for online dating. Some of y'all may never need to go on there. But consider it. Pray about it. Be open to it. A lot of people who don't see success is because they don't do it the right way. They don't take a real full-hearted approach when they do it. They're kind of 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door, and that leads to these subpar results. Again, yeah, people will say, well, there's crazy people online. There's crazy people in real life. It ain't no different, all right? It's the same people either way. It's just an easier way to meet more people, to make it more accommodating, especially if you're someone who's not getting out or doesn't feel like you can get out, or as I mentioned earlier, don't feel like the type of options you desire aren't in your area. So be open to it, consider it, and again, understand, when you start to put your mind and thoughts in the right place, you can start to create a much better, more positive, happier reality that will bring you the things that you truly desire in life. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. You know, one of the most difficult positions to be in is when you feel like, as a woman, that the man you were dating or you were with ends up choosing another woman over you, okay?